From seed to harvest, green energy to green living, your green space features ways you can keep your garden, home, and body feeling green. In this installment, Erika visits with herbalist Carissa Wills-DeMello.
Western herbal medicine involves utilizing plant materials to create treatments that assist or prevent numerous illnesses. These ingredients may include flowers, roots, fruits, leaves, and bark. The use of various herbal formulas is one of the oldest and possibly the most widespread form of medicine. Right now, I am at Town Farm Tonics, and we will be walking with Carissa and Adam through their yard as they believe that the healing herbs and wild weeds that grow in our climates are best suited to support us. Knowledge of these local plants reweaves a connection between land and people. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Carissa Wills-DeMello, and we are here in my backyard and my home garden in beautiful Westport, Massachusetts, which is on the south coast of Massachusetts. And our garden here is really our medicinal herb garden. It's a plot to support pollinators. It's a place for birds to come and visit and hang out and to really experiment with growing different herbs and making different herbal remedies. Luckily, I work at a vegetable farm nearby and we have a lot of farmers, so we don't really have a need to grow vegetables. So we really just focus this garden as a place for beauty, joy, inspiration, and that's what I really see as the benefit of having a garden, whether it's a plot in your backyard, raised beds in a local park, or just pots in a windowsill. I think a garden is really a place where you get to co-create with plants and build relationships with them and get to know them. And I think through those relationships, you build confidence and wisdom and creativity, and it's just a really beautiful relationship to have. So this is our little garden. This garden was started actually in 2014. This is my grandmother's house. It's where I grew up. And before I started this garden, it was really just our backyard. And it all started with a lavender plant in that corner and a thyme plant in that corner and raised beds that no longer exist save for these little borders right here. And I started the garden before I joined the Peace Corps, and it was really just meant to be a small home vegetable garden. But during my experience as a Peace Corps volunteer in Fiji, I was opened up to the concept of herbalism. I really had no idea that plants that grow wild around us were medicinal. And in Fiji, there's really this connection and strong practice still of their traditional forms of herbalism, where people are familiar with every bark, every leaf, seaweeds, roots, flowers, and it was just incredibly inspiring and humbling and eye-opening. And during that experience, I was convinced that when I came home, I just had to know more about the place that I live and the plants that grow here and their benefits and properties and how they can nourish me and the people in my life. And so when I came home in 2014, I started studying herbalism at Pharmacy Herbs in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was about a 3-year program. And after that, I did a residency in East Providence as a practicing herbalist. And it was that educational experience that really just threw me into this amazing world of the wild and cultivated medicinal plants that grow so easily and abundantly here in New England. And now our garden is thriving with both cultivated and wild plants. Some of our favorite plants are the ones that have introduced themselves, like this lovely plant. This is a great example. This is my friend mullein, or Verbascum thapsus. I'm sure some people plant mullein because why not? It's so beautiful. Mullein has just introduced itself to our garden and yard. It's a plant that's always been here, and rather than weeding out the weeds, we really like to balance planting cultivated medicinal plants with sort of tending the wilds here in our garden and finding the plants like mullein or like teasel back there in the corner, or St. Johns Wort that really want to be in our garden, and getting to know them and feeding them and tending them over the years, and really making this a place where the wild and the domestic commingle and teach us a lot. As a practicing herbalist, I make a lot of home herbal remedies and practice a lot of really kitchen herbalism, using plants in cooking that also benefit health and wellness. A great example of that is sage right here. Very common culinary herb, but it's also very medicinal. Sage is really great for drying out inflamed tissues and cooling tissues. You can make it a tea, into a soup, chop it up into pestos, and we use a lot of these plants to make remedies that we'll share with friends and families. I'll make tinctures, teas, and syrups that I can share with clients that I work with for different health needs. And also, we use our garden as a great place to experiment with growing and drying herbs that right now we're sourcing in bulk from other growers to make products like herbal teas and salves with. My partner Adam and I own a business called Town Farm Tonics, and we make elderberry syrup, fire cider, and loose leaf herbal teas, which are all well-known traditional herbal remedies that anyone can make easily in their own home. And our garden is a really great place to experiment with what it would be like if we were having our own herb farm and growing some of these plants, and comparing the difference in quality from a plant that's grown in really nutritious soil on a smaller scale, along with other plants cohabitating with pollinators and people, and seeing, does it grow a lot better when it's grown in that way in a small scale compared to the plants that we're right now having to source from bigger farms in larger quantities, and maybe plants that aren't dried so recently or aren't as fresh. An example of that is catnip. Catnip is a beautiful plant in the mint family. Pollinators love it. The bees are always all over this plant, as well as my cat Bentley, which is why there might be some branches missing. He likes to nibble on the lower branches. We put catnip in a tea for digestion. Catnip is really known for helping move gas from the digestive system and get rid of that butterfly feeling in your belly that goes with, belly and mind stress, and it's really well known for supporting children and helping them feel calm. So catnip is a fun one to grow at home and see, what's it like when we grow it and dry it ourselves, and compare that quality with maybe store-bought herbs. We really like to see what plants invite themselves into our garden, who really wants to be here, who grows and thrives and supports our pollinators and birds and us humans who live here. And St. Johns Wort is probably my favorite example. This plant is absolutely prolific and abundant around this area. It loves growing on sunny field edges and old fields and farms. And just a few years ago, we had no St. Johns Wort in our garden. So I think this plant really knows that I love it a lot and followed me here. And another name for St. Johns Wort, a name that I prefer, is solstice wort, because these beautiful little flowers bloom right around the summer solstice. And then we start picking these little flowers and we add them to an oil and infuse them in the sun. I can show you what that looks like. This right here was just made yesterday. I picked a bunch of St. Johns Wort flowers and added a mix of sunflower and olive oil and set it down in the sun. And as you can see, it doesn't look like much more than oil and flowers. This oil right here has been infusing for about 3 weeks. Check out that rich red color. So when the oil starts to turn red, that's indicative of the fact that the flowers are releasing their medicinal compounds into the oil, and the sun is really helping that infusion process. And then you can take this oil and strain it and make a really wonderful oil to apply to your skin for soothing aches and pains, like any inflammation or injury of the muscles or tissues, even sunburns. It really helps to bring blood flow and heal the tissues. And that's what I love about working with wild plants and really the common medicinal plants, like even rosemary and oregano. These plants are so much more than just flavor. They're medicine. There's a reason why soup is the first thing that people tell you to go to when you have a cold, because there's so many healing plants in there, the garlic, thyme, sage, and these are practices that are within all of our hands. I think what really brought me to herbalism was seeing that even in a place like Fiji, where maybe some Americans might think they're resource deprived or even poor, people's lives were so rich because they still had this knowledge and empowerment from the plants that are growing right outside of their door, right in the forest or right in the seaside. And having those relationships, I could just see how much joy and how much strength it brought people to know that their health was in their hands, that they had what they needed to support their community or take care of their family members. And I think that that's an experience that is, it's really accessible to all of us. We all have the ability, whether it's to grow a garden at home or just start to open our eyes to the plants that are growing at our favorite trails or our favorite parks, and start to get to know them as more than just a weed or a flower, and really get to know their history and how they can support us humans and really teach us something that can benefit our body, mind, and spirit. Home herb gardening definitely does not need to be limited by space or resources if you can be creative. This beautiful passion flower right here happens to be just growing right up our porch because it loves to spread itself out and reach high towards the sky. And there's simply no space in our small garden for passion flower. But our porch is a really creative place that we can use a structure that exists to grow this plant that is, one, really beautiful and also very medicinal. Passion flower makes a wonderful tea and tincture to help with sleep and restlessness and anxiety. And not only are we creatively using this space to grow passion flower, but we never even bought this passion flower. This vine, or the many vines that grow here, actually is maybe the great-great-grandbaby of a couple little passion flowers that I got from Pharmacy Herbs, which is where I studied and worked as an herbalist. And those maybe 2 or 3 vines have now grown to plentiful vines that are covering our porch. They're lending beautiful shade so I can sit out here and work on a hot summer day. And now this passion flower has so many babies that I've given them away to so many friends and family. So if you start to, open your eyes to the resources that already exist, whether it's wild plants or maybe gardens from friends and family, and start to share plants, you can really build up your home herb garden and your home herb apothecary with really not too many resources if you're creative. And then aside from our passion flower, in the middle of our yard, we've really let the mullein go absolutely wild. We've noticed that it's a favorite of the bees. So we like to keep it in bunches because when you sit in the middle of them, you can hear all the bees buzzing around you, and it's a really beautiful experience. And as you can see, it's just a backyard lawn, but mullein grows so well here out in the sunshine, and it has these beautiful flowers that you can infuse in oil to help reduce congestion by applying it to your chest. It has these wonderful leaves, some of which are getting a little old, but the younger, greener, more beautiful leaves make a really wonderful tea for respiratory congestion. So again, instead of limiting ourselves to the garden, we found spaces in our yard where the plants want to be and have already established themselves, and we just let them grow wild. And we even have a bunch of plantain growing here too, which, not plantain the banana, longleaf plantain. And this plant is really great for healing wounds and helping with itches and inflammation. And we just let these useful plants find their place in our yard and make a home. So now that I've showed you a little bit of the herb garden, I'll take you inside and give you an idea or two of how you can take some of these wild and cultivated plants and transform them into a kitchen herbal medicine that you can easily make and use in everyday life. So bringing the herbs from the garden or your yard or the windowsill into the kitchen is the next part of the fun that I really love, and a great way to extend gardening into the fall and winter months when we're spending more time indoors, but you can still get creative with plants. So we all met St. Johns Wort in the garden, one of my favorite wild medicinal plants. And here is some St. Johns Wort oil that was infused about a month ago, and it's ready to be strained. So all we're gonna do here, and this is something anyone can easily do at home, you just infuse that St. Johns Wort into your oil and strain those flowers out. Look at how rich and red that oil is. And it smells really good too. It has this nice lemony fragrance to it. And now this oil can be saved and just simply applied to the skin for sunburns or, you know, small burn from cooking, say. Or you can mix that oil up with beeswax and shea butter and make a salve. And a salve is simply an oil with beeswax and perhaps shea butter or coconut oil that gets a little bit harder, and then it's easier to apply, and you can use this on aches and sprains. It's really good for inflammation and for muscular and nervous system pain. That's the traditional use for the plant. You can also tincture St. Johns Wort and a lot of other plants really easily. This is being tinctured in brandy. Making a tincture is essentially just extracting the beneficial compounds from a plant into a menstruum or a solution. So that could be alcohol, that could be vinegar, it could be a vegetable glycerin, depending on what type of liquid you want to consume. Different menstruums will get out different compounds from the plant, but if you're really looking to just do the simple folk herbalism, kitchen herbalist method, I say get some good brandy or good vodka and just simply fill your jar with plants and cover it with that spirit and let it sit for about a month. And that will draw out a lot of compounds and then allow you to use that tincture in a medicinal way. St. Johns Wort is a really great plant to know, of course, because like all plants, one plant can be a medicine cabinet unto itself. It can have so many different benefits, so many different uses. And not only that, but so beautiful and supportive for pollinators and birds and people taking in the beauty. And then you can make so many different things that you can share with your family and friends. St. Johns Wort, to me, is a really good reminder that herbalism really goes hand in hand with your traditional or more modern allopathic medicine. I think it's really not one or the other. It's all things combined and knowing when is the right time to go to a different healthcare provider. And for instance, St. Johns Wort is really well known for nervous system support internally, but also as a tincture, it can have contraindications and it can interact with different pharmaceuticals because it has a really powerful and important effect on your liver, and it helps you really flush out toxins and compounds from your body that you don't need. But if you're taking a medication, that means your medication might flush out of your body too fast and won't get to do the important things it's supposed to do. So St. Johns Wort is just a really good reminder that, you know, allopathy and traditional herbal medicine can really work hand in hand. And I'm sure as time goes on, that will be more and more of the case. Another plant that we grow in our garden is Tulsi or holy basil. This is a fun one to grow because, as I mentioned, my partner and I have an herbal business called Town Farm Tonics, and Tulsi is one herb that we source bulk quantities of. We get pounds and pounds of this beautiful herb that's sourced from organic farms all around America, but ideally we'd be growing it ourselves or sourcing it directly from farmers who are growing it locally, because then that's supporting our local economy, that's supporting local farmers, that also gives us hopefully eventually work that is really joyful and supporting our local ecology. But for now, while we don't have access to a farm or many local farmers growing medicinal herbs, we're trialing growing our herbs at home because we can use it for ourselves, we can share it with friends and family, and then we can also trial what it's like to maybe sub out our homegrown Tulsi for some of the bulk grown Tulsi and see, does it make a difference? You know, this is what our tea ends up looking like at the end, this beautiful mix of herbs. This blend has oat straw, nettles, and a bunch of other high vitamin and mineral herbs that are just really nutritious and taste amazing. And it's really fun to take that blend and try it out on a smaller home scale and see what are we capable of growing ourselves and what can we suggest other people try for themselves too. You know, for me as an herbalist, running an herbal business is my day job, but being an herbalist is really my passion. And for me, it's about the empowering experience of getting to know plants and using them for yourselves and teaching others, and that's what really brings me joy and hope for the future.
One of the advantages of herbal medicine for gardeners is that many herbs are easy to grow. In fact, several medicinal plants commonly are grown as ornamentals. For example, instead of going to the store to buy echinacea, you can grow this lovely flu-fighting herb in your own yard, as many of these herbal remedies can be prepared in your own kitchen. Herbal formulas are used for many suggested purposes, such as improvement or general support of digestive, respiratory, circulatory, immune, endocrine, and nervous system processes. Our towns, backyards, fields, and forests are full of the healing herbs within many of our favorite therapies. It's just knowing where to start. Here's to our wellness. Cheers.
Thank you, Erika and Carissa. To watch episodes on other green topics, visit the Local Scenes YouTube channel and the playlist Your Green Space.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button before you go. We'll see you next time.